Chapter 3 The Colonies Unite. It was September, and the leaves were beginning to change color in Philadelphia. Samuel Adams put on a new red suit. He didn't normally wear such fancy clothes, but he was going to meet with other leaders of the 13 colonies. These leaders were meeting in Philadelphia to write a letter to King George III explaining why they were so unhappy. Why was Samuel Adams wearing such fancy clothes? Where was the important meeting? What did the colonial leaders plan to do in Philadelphia? When all the leaders were gathered together, they began to write the letter. In it, they asked King George to take away all unfair laws and taxes. They said that if he didn't, the colonies would no longer buy anything from Britain. Each leader signed his name on the letter. One of the men who signed the letter was George Washington. King George and Britain needed money to pay for the war with France. If the colonists stopped buying anything from Britain, Britain would not get any money from the colonies. That's why the leaders thought that King George III and the Parliament wouldn't like it if the colonies no longer bought anything from Britain. The leaders wanted the king to know that the colonists disagreed with him, and the colonists were going to stick together and speak with one voice. That's why the leaders of the different colonies wanted to send a single letter to King George III that they all signed. Do you recognize the name of George Washington, one of the leaders who signed the letter to King George III? What did the colonial leaders ask the king for? What did the colonial leaders say they would do if the king did not take away these unfair laws and taxes? After signing the letter, the colonial leaders left the meeting and went home. They planned to meet again when they received news from the king and his parliament. Most importantly, the leaders from all the colonies had decided to work together. Being a proud American was becoming more important than being loyal to the king. These proud Americans were known as Patriots. Someone who is loyal shows strong support for someone or something. The colonists were, in effect, saying that if King George did not change the unfair British laws, the colonists would no longer be loyal to him, but would be loyal to one another. They would stick together as colonists and unite. A patriot was a colonist who supported the cause of freedom from Britain. Although at this time America was not a separate country from Great Britain, many American colonists were beginning to consider themselves Americans and not British subjects. These were the colonists known as Patriots. What did the colonial leaders do after the letter to the king was signed? What did the leaders of the colonies decide to do after the Boston Tea Party? And why was it so important?